If everybody would please stand and repeat with me. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to the May 29th Board of Aldermen meeting. Glad to see so many people come out to this. This is fantastic. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Smith.
Present.
Alderman Billiard. Present. Alderman Keene. Alderman Lancaster. Present. Alderman Wilson.
Present.
Alderman Swatosh.
Present.
And Mayor Barry.
Present.
Thank you. And we do have a quorum. Can have a meeting.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any agenda amendments for the board?
On item 17, we can add the word legal behind the DRS in the section.
That should actually show recess, the open session pursuant to that, as opposed to after the closed session.
16 as well then.
Pardon?
16 as well then.
Exactly. I do know we have I've been notified of a slight correction on a similar nature to our minutes in the consent agenda, so I would just go ahead now and ask that the minutes be pulled out of the consent agenda for approval after the consent agenda. Anybody else have any changes? Then I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the changes so noted.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the changes so noted.
I'll second that. We have a first and a second. Thank you. Okay. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Billiard. Yes. Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Swatosh.
Yes.
And Mayor Barry.
Very good. Item number 3, the consent agenda for financial statements of April 2024, April and May 2024 outstanding invoices, check register, and utility adjustments. I'm hoping everybody has had a chance to review those. Do we have any questions? Already in that. Hearing none, I would ask for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make.
No. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. I'll second. Sorry. We have a first and a second. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Billiard. Yes. Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
And Alderman Swatosh.
Yes.
Very good. The next item was the minutes being pulled out for a slight modification. The city clerk had notified me of a minor change as we are trying to do things more accurately every day. Ms. Gardner?
Yes. It was on items number,
19 and 20.
19 and 20. And we did actually do that pursuant last time.
We recessed the open session pursuant to the legal as opposed to opening the closed session.
Yes.
Does anybody have any other changes regarding the minutes?
I did have a question on, I thought that we pushed off waiting, or we opted to wait on the organizational chart until next meeting. Or did we?
I think that was the
Did
police
we-
department that we were waiting for the organizational chart because the
Right.
major had a couple different ranks.
There were a couple of
So we were
different
waiting
ranks
for
from what
a,
were listed on the
a formal-
organizational chart.
correct.
So we're actually looking at potentially another change.
Right.
The change that was presented, we did approve. If that answers your question. All right, anybody else? Could we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll second.
Okay, Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Villiard. Yes. Alderman Lancaster. Yes. Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
and Alderman Swatas.
All right, item number 4, current outstanding invoices. We have all been handed, as was noted, hot off the press. Invoices for us to review and approve if possible. So if you would now take a moment to review those and ask any questions that you may have.
On page 6 of 11, the gaskets, joints, couplings, the $4,000 charge.
On which page?
Page 6 of 11,
6.
under Springfield Wind Water. Which, is that for a specific building or?
Looks like in the description, it's a water line repair panel.
Okay, which one is it? The 4,000?
The $4,087.
That was, I think, a combination of added supplies that they added to their supply. Water leaks they had.
Okay.
On the Mongan painting on page 5 of 11. In the description, it says pool basin work, caulk, concrete repair. Did we have to do additional repairs, or was that just the painting? Or
So the additional work that was done was when they sandblasted, they noticed that some of the caulking seams, the expansion seams, the caulk had been deteriorated, and they recommended to re-caulk those seams because they couldn't warranty it without new caulk. So we had to re-caulk those seams, and then there were some deck repairs that they also did, so.
or was that versus?
That was, I believe it ended up being about $7,800 over the initial bid.
Our bill there includes the painting cost.
Yes. It should be like 80, right at 81,000 or something like that.
Anybody else? Somebody left one. That time of the year.
I'll make a motion to approve the current outstanding invoices.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Villiard,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
and Alderman Swatton.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Item number 5, citizen input. If anybody would like to step forward, state your name and address and espouse any comments you have for us, we would certainly welcome. Seeing none?
Hold on a second, sir.
Oh,
I don't know if it's one posted or not, but my name's James Stacker. I live at 6242 North State Highway Z. I've worked running firework tents here in town. And I was wanting to talk to you guys about extending the date that we close instead of having closed on the night before.
and I'm sorry, say that again.
I run firework tents here in town.
Uh-huh,
I also live in town, but well, actually just out of town.
right.
And I was wanting to talk to you guys about extending the date for the firework tents to be able to stay open. Our license gives us until the 10th, but the city's regulation is the way you got rid of it. Now we got to close down midnight.
You're to close after the 4th, right?
Yeah, we got to close midnight the 4th.
Okay. We can certainly put that on the agenda for the next meeting. We are not able to discuss
No,
things that are not on the agenda, but
Yeah, I just called up here and they told me to show up. Whoever I talked to.
sure. Well, we're glad you came. And I think it's very appropriate if there's concern there that
Here in
we
3
discuss
years
it.
is the 250th celebration of the 4th for the United States, so it's going to be pretty big. It happens fall on the weekend.
Sure.
I make more money, you guys make more money.
That's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing.
On a Thursday. So it'd be nice. I mean, if it falls in the middle of the week, I don't expect you guys to really stay Wednesday. I don't want to get it for myself, but. I just want to make a motion.
Sure. We appreciate that. Would you make a note under new business under the next? Stuff to the agenda for tonight, but we will put it on the next agenda and have that discussion.
Okay.
And if you would make, sure the city clerk or somebody has your contact information so that if we. Okay, perfect. Perfect. That's outstanding. That'll work.
All right, thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to item number 6, presentation of the 2023 internal audit by Decker and DeGood.
Here you go.
My name's Blake Pace. I'm a CPA with Decker and DeGood CPA firm. I'll present this year's annual financial audit. Place those blue binders in front of you guys. That's what we're referring to. We'll start with page 1. Reports for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Page 1 is a report called the Independent Auditor's Report, and there's basically 3 main highlights from this report. The first being the opinion paragraphs, and then the responsibilities of management for the financial statements, and then the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements. So responsibilities of management is to furnish to us all relevant financial information, and our job as the auditors is to provide a formal opinion whether that information is free from material misstatement and in the right format per governmental accounting standards. So the opinion paragraph basically states In plain English, that the city received a clean opinion this year, which is the highest designated opinion that the city could receive. And it means just what I mentioned earlier, that the financial information in this report is in fact free from material misstatement, and it's in the right format per governmental standards. So any outside reader of the statements, a bonding agency, citizens, banks, that's what they're going to be looking for is a clean opinion. Without that, the audit doesn't mean much. That being said, I'm going to flip to page 14. Sorry, 15 actually. Page 15 is what's commonly known as a profit and loss statement. This is just specifically for your general and park funds, so your tax-based funds, as opposed to your water and sewer fund. But in total, these funds brought in $4,049,288 of revenue. They had expenditures of $3,629,405, and then some loan proceeds, leading to a net change in fund balance $442,715 to the plus. A few comments just to take away from this statement. The first being the prior year net change for the governmental funds was $753,000 to the plus. This year, with it being $442,000, a lot of that difference isn't really within the revenues or expenditures. It's mainly capital outlay. There wasn't really any capital outlay in the governmental funds in the prior years, and this year there was $472,000 worth. So the reason for that difference in the change is mainly the increase in capital outlay this year. Nothing to really be worried about. I mean, you guys are operating to the plus, so that's a great benefit. But the main takeaway that we get from this report is how do your cash balances in the governmental funds compared to your total expenditures for the year. So our expectations when we're auditing is that you would have anywhere from 3 to 6 months of expenses if no revenue were to come in the door to operate. So 3 months of cash is $907,000. 6 months worth is around $1.8 million. And in terms of cash, you guys far exceeded our expectations and had around $4.6 million in cash. So the governmental funds have plenty of cash to operate with. Again, they exceed their expectations of 3 to 6 months cash. And so in the case that tax revenues were down, which is highly unlikely, that there's plenty of cash to operate with and room to improve if needs be. So being said, I'm going to flip to page 18. And page 18 is a similar statement, a profit and loss statement. This is specifically for the water and sewer fund. So in total, operating revenues for the water and sewer fund is $3,089,421. Operating expenses of $3,050,283. And some interest expense down at the bottom, leading to a change in net position of $27,199 to the plus. Last year, the prior year, this was $198,000 increase change. Expenses were just a little higher this year, and so that's the reason why the change is down a little bit from the prior year. But again, it's positive, so there's nothing that we're really worried about in that case. And then again, the same for the water and sewer fund. I think you've got a little over a year's worth of cash in the water and sewer fund, so that far exceeds our 3 to 6 months expectation. I'm going to flip to page 19. And in terms of the water and sewer operations, I think page 19 is a much better and more accurate statement in terms of gauging the activities in the water and sewer fund this year. Two main takeaways that we kind of take from this statement of cash flows. The first is near the top of the page. There's a line that says net cash provided by operating activities. So hypothetically, and this number is $142,803. Hypothetically, we always want to see this number as positive, which it is. If it wasn't, that could mean that your water and sewer rates aren't sufficient enough to cover just the daily operations, the salaries, the repairs and maintenance. So that's kind of our first gauge is this number positive, which it is. And basically by it being positive, it allows an excess amount of cash to cover your principal and interest payments and have room to make capital improvements. So second main point of this statement is about middle of the page. It says net cash decrease for the year. The cash balances in the water and sewer funds dropped $584,847 for the fiscal year. Main reason being, if you look up to capital improvements, there was $526,000 roughly of capital improvements. That's higher than what it's been in years past. So again, nothing really to worry about. Like I said, the water and sewer fund has over a year's worth of cash. So if the cash balances are dropping this much and there's only 2 to 3 months of cash, it may be a red flag to raise rates, but that's just not the case. All in all, our office, we don't have any really negative comments. Everything looks very clean. It was a good first year working with you guys. We didn't really come across any major issues. Everything was very organized for us, and honored to be working with you guys. So, anyone have any questions or comments? If anybody,
I've got a question.
There you go.
I know it shows that we've got a lot of cash on hand,
Mhm.
but if we're planning projects and that goes down, is that not a good thing? Because it will go down with the projects.
you've definitely got the cash to make the improvements and to carry forth the projects. As of December 31st, there was plenty of cash. It depends on the severity and the scale of the project, but there's definitely cash there. So even considering taking a hit, I mean, the governmental funds, they had 3 to 4 years worth of cash. And again, we're only looking, 6 months would be a good indicator. So you could drop $2 million in cash in the governmental funds and you can still exceed our expectations in terms of what we're looking for. And same is true for the water and sewer funds.
So you've not taken into consideration any projects that are out there because you've made this statement that there's no reason to raise our water rates, but we've not been told that. We've been told that we need to raise our water rates because we're not taking in enough to cover them.
I mean, engineering studies can differ from accounting reports. I mean, if you continue with the capital improvements to the extent that they were this year, then you would want to look at raising them. Comparing back to last year when there was less capital improvements, rates were sufficient. So I guess you could argue if you're looking, forward and looking optimistically towards improving and growing, yes, you would want to raise them. For current circumstances, you have plenty of cash. So depends on your objectives.
If I could also add, usually a rate study will be forward-looking, whereas an audit is previous-looking. So a rate study is going to look at it in terms of, based on consistent income, how close to insolvency does your fund get if you don't make changes with predicted increases in inflationary costs and wages and salaries and things like that. So that's likely not something that will be covered in the audit, but will be in a rate study.
Yeah, my concern is just the statement that was made is you don't need to raise rates. That's going out live on a video, and our
And we
citizens
just raised
are
rates.
completely different. So that's just my concern is how that was worded. And again, I know we are in a rate study to see projects that we're doing, but that statement going out causes concern because that's not what we told our citizens, and that's not. Yeah, so I just want to make notification that that
Raising
is.
the rates are going to allow the city to grow and make the necessary capital improvements needed.
There you go.
Again,
Just needed the honor to say that.
as he said, the current cash balances are great, so there's nothing to worry about. I can assume that all your citizens want to see the city flourish, see improvements, see rate change happen. So a rate study will allow that. But looking backwards,
As of December 31st, we looked good, but with the projects going forward, a rate study and rate increase is necessary.
yes, go up in the long term for sure, most definitely. I didn't want to say that it's not absolutely necessary. I mean, given the city's objectives going forward and how much capital improvements need to be made, it could definitely, of course, be necessary. But that's internal conversation that I'm not a part of, so I don't know the 10-year plan.
That's what I was gonna say, just for the record, you don't know what our upcoming expenditures are gonna be, and you don't
Correct.
know what our upcoming projects are.
Correct.
So it wouldn't be fair for you, to put you in a position to say what we need or do not need as far as revenue and increases.
Correct.
That'd be an accurate statement, correct?
Correct. My report reports for the past year and on December 31st. So I'm looking at last year, I'm looking at this year. I don't know internal management.
Thank you.
But I see your point. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be necessary if that's the way the city's progressing.
Perfect.
Any other questions or comments come up? Our number is on this letterhead, so please feel free to reach out to us. Be happy to answer your questions, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item number 7, final plat for 18 Square. Mr. Roosh.
Mayor, Alderman, I'm happy to be back. I missed you last time, so.
Missed you, sir.
So as was presented a couple weeks ago, ATM Commercial has come in for a final plat with a couple of questions from the Planning Commission. One being sidewalks on the new Melville side, and the other one being a warranty bond for existing infrastructure. The warranty bond was submitted by Mr. Kelly and has been approved by the city, so that has been taken care of. The sidewalk in question, we were asked to do some research to see what we could find as far as the discussion of infrastructure versus variances on code. What was found is we had a letter from Matt, from Mr. Kelly, to the city requesting some help on some improvements of the stormwater. And in 2014, we did receive a check from Mr. Kelly for the price of $1,248 as it states a cost share for stormwater project. There's no real details on if the city's accepted anything, what the money actually was for. And we don't have any record or letter stating variance to our current code. Our current code in 405-150 states that a sidewalk should be installed on one side of the street currently on all streets. And ATM is currently in between Proctor Street and New Melville Street, so both streets would be affected by our current code.
Would allow us to approve part of a development for lot approval and building without approving the entire development?
Are we talking precedents or are we talking with code?
Code.
No. Code states you go through the preliminary plat process, you get that approved, you go through your construction drawings, install your infrastructure, get your infrastructure approved, apply for a final plat, get your final plat approved, and then you're allowed to build and sell lots. What has currently happened with ATM is they went through their preliminary plats. Somehow they were able to amend a final plat that never happened, and they've sold 3 lots in the subdivision without ever having a final plat in the subdivision. So, like I said, we're really anxious to get this through. I mean, it'd be a bonnet in our cap to have some property on 160, but we definitely need to look at, the codes and what's there and what needs to be there. Because ultimately, if the developer doesn't put the sidewalks in, it will be the responsibility of the city to put it in. So
So it would not be the responsibility of whoever buys those lots and develops them?
no, sir. As soon as I sign the final plan, as soon as the final plat is approved, the city is accepting that is there in full, and it would be the city's responsibility to install from there on out.
If I may,
Correct me if I'm wrong, council.
okay, there is in I don't know what's been done before, obviously, because I haven't been here, but there are some in section 400.1440, which would allow the developer to produce a surety bond guaranteeing the sidewalk and the finish of improvements to get the plat approved. Or they can deposit the money, it's like an escrow.
We did talk about a performance bond at the planning commission, but like I said, I wasn't here for the previous meeting where the final plat was discussed. No, I don't have the backstory on any of that, but that is true. We do have the performance bond issue where you could come in and bond for 150% of project costs.
Whatever the cost for sidewalk is, and then that way, if it doesn't get done, the city can
Correct.
take against that.
Well said, yeah.
So my perspective is we're going to continue to run into a few of these issues until the existing projects that we've got going on are complete. Hopefully from this point moving forward, Mr. Roosh has moved his department into the 21st century and is a little more familiar with the codes than past employees have been. We're also, I think, pursuing a course of putting in writing things that are said. Verbal promises are just not a good business practice, and that has been going on for decades. So the good news is, as we complete the current ongoing projects, hopefully we will not run into this kind of issue nearly as much as we are now. The bad news is we have allowed things that we've done poor practice in the past. And that has, in no question to my mind, having a little bit more familiarity with ATM cost the developer time and money that he might not have had to absorb had we been more secure in how we were pursuing these projects. I'm very concerned that to this point, we've not mandated this and now we're looking at doing it. And I get code is code, but we already are acknowledging we're not following, or we have not followed code. We also know that, for instance, on Gage Street, I can remember, I think it was about 5 years ago when we were getting ready to, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, to approve the development of Gage Crossing for housing. I can remember a past planning director indicate that housing would be started almost immediately on both sides of the street. Come to find out, that was not going to happen because the west side of Gage Crossing is in the FEMA floodplain. Now, part of what we're trying to do is get this plat approved so the developer can apply for a LOMA, and part of that would to FEMA, which would pull that out of the floodplain and allow them to go ahead and start developing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, he has submitted his LOMRF. and it has been approved, so it will be forwarded on to FEMA,
Okay,
and then it will be in their ballpark to settle up.
but you can't forward FEMA until we approve a final plat.
That is not correct,
Okay,
no. The LOMAR has nothing to do with the final plat.
so what is the delay on,
The delay on that is until those lots in Gage Crossing and the couple lots that are in ATN commercial, until they are out of the floodplain, my office will not release building permits.
okay,
So.
so,
We can finalize plats and everything like that, and that's not an issue, but building permits will not be submitted until the floodplain has been adjusted by FEMA.
right, okay, thank you. So my point is, having put in the street and prepared to build on Gage Crossing, all of a sudden they were shut down on half of that development on that street, which, you know, I could make a case that that is partly the city's responsibility, not just the developers. We made promises that we didn't keep. We said things would be allowed to happen that weren't ready to happen. So my concern is adding the cost of sidewalk on a project that has been fairly expensive for the developer, continues to pursue this reputation of being hard to work with. I know we're going to finalize these issues and put them behind us sooner rather than later, but in the meanwhile, real money is at stake, real dollars are being involved, and based on the conversation we had 2 weeks ago, it seemed the board was prepared to move forward without asking the developer to put that sidewalk in. I raised that, I remind everybody of that because of the issues this subdivision, ATM, has had. So with that being said, discuss.
During our meeting with the developer, I asked a question where the developer had receipts for the $80,000 that he was claiming to have spent on the concrete for the drainage.
Okay.
Because that was the claim, that he had overspent on building that aqueduct or
Culvert.
culvert, or
Concrete
whatever
culvert.
you want to call it. And then that was the reason why he did not want to do the sidewalk. I asked him if he had those receipts, he said he did. Has he provided any of that information to the city?
Not that I'm aware of.
Has he provided any communication, email, set any precipice as to the agreement they had with Randy Brown? Is there anything in writing?
The only writing I have is a letter from October 2019 requesting co-payment, or it doesn't mention costs, it just mentions possible co-payments, and then his check for $1,248.
That's from 2019 or 2014?
The check is from 2014, the request is from 2019.
Okay.
So, like I said, I don't know if there's a correlation there.
Okay, so my next question is, why did we arrive at the final plat approval and now we're talking about the sidewalk? Why wasn't this 2 years ago question?
As I recall, the code was never brought up about a requirement for a sidewalk on any development that had along the street side, and obviously this does have 2 street sides. What was raised is there was no original intent to put a sidewalk in on New Melville until the developer decided to look at putting in residential along New Melville on the south side of ATN. And at that point, planning and zoning asked for a sidewalk along there. Subsequent to that, the developer has taken out that part of residential. And what happened to the sidewalk at that point is apparently what we're never going to determine. But that was how that shook out. There was originally no discussion of the sidewalk until they started looking at putting in residential on that side. And I would also say that this project began before I even began attending these meetings, much less was elected to sit on the board. So this has been going, ATM's been out there, what,
2008.
there you go.
Is there any estimate of what the sidewalk costs?
Sorry?
Do we have any estimate of the cost to install the sidewalk?
It's about 900 feet of sidewalk.
It's 900 feet, what would the cost be of the linear foot? Do you know?
I wish Justin was here, I'd probably say, $5 a linear foot.
Maybe 5,000-ish?
5,000 for material, probably.
Then all the labor.
Probably another 10,000 for,
Labor and equipment?
so you're probably $15,000 to $20,000.
So, I could be mistaken, but I thought the developer, and I don't know the dollar figure, I was looking to see if maybe it was noted in the minutes. It seemed like the check that he was talking about, having given the city a check, it seemed like it was much more substantial than 1,000.
I do recall
Yeah.
him saying like it was quite a bit higher than that amount.
We have a transmission log for all of 2014,
And this is the only time Matt Kelly and ATM Square had can come up, but Carolyn's got some information.
Yeah,
so.
we looked up different payment transmittals, and every payment transmittal was addressed to something specific, and nothing was addressed to any of this, so.
So I'm kind of like with Scott, the ball's in his court to prove the point of expenditures. I mean, if he only spent $40,000, do we take the sidewalk or do we split it? Or, I mean, it just seems like numbers were thrown out there, but if we don't have anything to substantiate them.
Really long side, it makes it difficult to just throw something to it.
Yeah, I think we should meet, somebody should meet with the developer and start putting the facts behind words, and let's figure out what the solution is.
Because he told us he couldn't get his FEMA thing until we approved the final plat, but it.
I mean, FEMA has nothing to do with the final plat. We can approve the final plat and everything like that based on the elevations they have on their as-built, So, FEMA's not waiting on us for doing a review on their loan mark. That is not the case, so.
I believe it was his representative 2 weeks ago that indicated that was,
The case.
that they couldn't submit until they had final plat approved, is what I recall.
That's what I
I
recall.
mean, we could go back to the meeting minutes or the video from 2 weeks ago. If that's not accurate, then that's good for them.
I'm not aware of
Right.
I'm not aware that that's the case. I may be wrong, but.
I've never seen anything like that. I mean, they're just, FEMA's approving the change, the proper drainage and change in elevation to remove those things out of the floodplain.
Yeah, all the LOMAR is changing the floodplain. FEMA's physically changing the floodplain to move those lots out of it. That's all it is. They're changing their map.
And that infrastructure's done, correct? The drainage stuff?
The as-built have been put in and they have been submitted as installed, so, yeah, so, I mean, that's all the approval is. The approval is them just updating the maps, that's all it is. So it really has nothing to do with elevations or field work or anything like that.
Is there a particular reason the developer's not here tonight?
He's in Florida.
Vacation?
He lives in Florida.
Okay. Because it sounds to me that the situation is that there's obviously a long history here without any documentation from either side to determine what was said, who said it, what the agreements were. So it sounds like that might be a pursuit down a rabbit hole if we postpone things and try to find things that maybe don't exist. And then where are we? We're sitting back where we are right now. I mean, I'm very happy that moving forward, we're going to start doing things in a more professional manner. Documentation, records of discussions and plans, but it doesn't negate the fact that we still need to deal with this situation now.
Mike, on a bond, how do they determine, does the developer come up with a cost and base the bond on that? Or-
Yeah, so what happens is they'll come in and they'll receive a bid on it, and then they will multiply that by 150% according to our code. And if we, I mean, we have a baseline through Public Works on what flat work costs, so if we feel like it's low, we'll get another bid and we'll compare and take an average and go 150% of the average. And that would be the bond amount which they would have for that project. So.
But you think $5 a foot is?
The last time I talked to Justin, I thought that's about what it was for a 5-foot sidewalk. And, I mean, a lot of these developers, they're smart. They're not gonna have the concrete guys doing the base work and stuff like that. They'll get their excavating crew out there. They can do it in half the time, So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I would rely on Public Works on what their bids are coming in and everything like that as a baseline. And then if he's in the ballpark, we would move on from there.
What happens if there's not in the ballpark? If Public Works disagrees with their bid?
Well, if they come extra low, we would contact a concrete company, have them come in and do a bid, and we would see the difference and take the average. So.
Other than the sidewalks, as far as P&Z goes, there's no other issues. This is the only obstruction and hurdle, correct?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I mean, at the P&Z meeting, he came forward with his warranty bond and everything like that. Of course, the warranty bond doesn't cover the sidewalks that haven't been installed. Whether it's decided at this level that they need to be or not to be. As far as I'm concerned, all the other requirements that the planning and zoning have asked for have been completed.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
Because both sides are culpable in this, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the final plat with the city paying half for the sidewalks up to a maximum of $7,500.
Is there any realistic chance sidewalks could be $50,000?
I'm not an expert on the infrastructure side. There's always a chance, Mayor. There's always a chance. So.
Can we have somebody reach out to Justin and?
Can you phone a friend?
Can I phone
Right. I was gonna say, can we have somebody reach out to Justin and just get a
Ballpark
ballpark
figure.
of what he thinks?
He's probably gonna have to research it.
I know, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Playground. So I just poured about 180 feet of 60-inch wide sidewalk at the playground. And the high bid that I got was $9,800 for about 160 feet of 60-inch sidewalk. So,
Multiply that by.
So you said 180 feet?
yeah, so we're looking at, what was it, 900 feet?
Is that the same code, the 60 inches that would be here?
Yeah, all of our sidewalk is, well, currently the residential sidewalk is 5 feet, so, yeah.
Though I'm not in Kansas anymore, previously coming here, we had about 500 feet quoted at 33,000.
So how much?
33,000.
500 feet at 30
500
feet?
feet.
So 900 could be 50 or 60. So,
Of course, that's a very different area, but probably
Right.
at least gives you a.
so 180 feet, has anybody done the math yet? 900 divided by 180 times 9,800, 50,000 for 900 feet. So it's substantially more than $5 a foot. More like $50 a foot.
You had 5 minutes, sorry, Mayor.
Well, some of that's going to be dependent on what the base is in that area.
Correct, yeah. So,
Had they built it up for sidewalks already? They just didn't put them in, or do you know?
The prep work hasn't been done, and that's why I brought the excavation part. You know, if you're not having the concrete company come in and do the excavation, you could probably save some money off that, but.
So we have a motion on the floor that either needs to be seconded or die. And hearing no second, I guess it died. Do we have any other motions on the floor?
At this point, I see that we got two options. We postpone this until we go get some numbers from Justin, if the board is amenable to sharing the cost, because it seems fairly factual that we stand some responsibility in it. Or we just increase the amount. One of those two seems to be the reasonable alternatives.
I think that we need to have a good.
An accurate number.
Solid number, and then I fully agree with sharing the cost. I'm 100% agreement with that, but I think we need to have a solid number to move forward with.
I would agree.
I think what I would probably recommend on the plat, and depending on how you guys end up sharing it, is just have them change the plat to only show how much sidewalk they're supposed to do, and then finish it, or put a bond for that portion, and then you guys can do your portion at another time, so you're not, unless they're gonna come up with the money to do it all at once.
And in regards to that, I mean, I've done a field visit out there, and they have about 700 feet on their property that is straight. You'd have some minimal fill to get it in. But when you get to the covert, you're gonna have to have a crosswalk, and then there will have to be a bridge and everything installed to get over the ravine and back. Whether you go on the north side or the south side is a lot better suited, so you'll have to look at cost there because.
So maybe just a true cost share, okay.
Yeah, so. But I mentioned a crosswalk, and Public Works already jumped in my office and said, what are you volunteering me for? So.
Well, the crosswalk's easy. Crossing the culvert is the trick. And you know, I've talked about that. It's feasible to walk across that culvert without actually stepping into traffic, but it's very close to traffic. And
if you're having a city sidewalk, it needs to go in to standards, so you're not going to put them in the street.
Exactly.
So.
And the problem is right now, the city already has the problem of no sidewalk there. People do walk down the street, and that is not the developer's fault.
Like I said, I get 2 to 3 calls a month on that section.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they stopped calling for a while, but we'll work to AV.
So would the board consider, if you're looking for something like a cost share, rather than picking a specific number, looking at doing a specific distance and having the plat reflect that and approve based on, half the distance or whatever?
As long as that distance is ours, and we can then determine when it's put in, depending upon
Right.
the budget.
Right. Well, that's what that would do,
Yeah.
allow us to budget for it rather than cost sharing at the developer's.
Discretion.
So then the amount, the question would be, how much sidewalk do you want
The developer to put in.
the developer to put in?
It's supposed to be 900.
I believe it was around 900 feet total.
And 900 feet and crossing a culvert is going to be a little awkward.
From the corner of Barwick to the covert was about 200 feet heading west, and then past the covert was about 700.
Going on up the hill to the end of the property line, it's another 7.
I like that idea too.
Question is how far?
Half. Half. Give them the hard part of the culvert and everything. We'll take the half going up the hill, or it's semi-level. I always want boardwalk instead of park place.
Mike, the plat shows a 10-foot easement, is that right? Is that sufficient for the sidewalk to be put in?
It should be, yeah, and, yeah. Depending on utilities, everything like that, where utilities are located, Public Works would have to coordinate. They don't like sidewalks on top of their water line. In fact, our code says thou shalt not, but, you know, I mean, yeah, we would just coordinate with them. We like to have a buffer between the street and the sidewalk anyway, so we would push that as far back as we could.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Troy's much better at it than I am. You word it, I'll second it.
I need a map to word it the way I want to.
That's difficult for this guy.
Before you do, let me ask you one more question. On crossing that culvert, how tricky is that? How sophisticated is that going to be to do it right?
Honestly, talking to Public Works, probably our cheapest option is just bridging it. Actually having the contractor come in and put a bridge in, whether it's concrete or all surface. He says right now, precast is incredibly expensive and lead times are way out. So he said bang for the buck, it'd probably be easier just to actually pour a bridge foundation and put a bridge over the top. And then connect sidewalk to sidewalk after the bridge.
Just your personal opinion, is it better to have the developer do that or for the city to take care of it? Not, cost not the issue, but who's going to do the better job?
Honestly, we both.
And you're gonna own it at the end of it, so.
Yeah.
And we are going to.
So, I mean, I would much rather have the design in our hands than have the contractor out there saying, here's your cast iron bridge, you know, because
So
we know what specifications we like, we know what we want it to look like, so.
So just spitballing with the board here, instead of splitting the distance 50-50, if we gave the developer a little more distance, and that way the city, and then that would be on the west side of the culvert. That would put the culvert in our capable hands, would help share the cost if they were taking more than 50%, but how's that sound?
And this bridge is crossing from the culvert from ATM south.
Yeah, so we would actually put the crosswalk on the west side of the culvert, go south, and then cross there because it's a much better.
South to the south side of Melville, and then it's gonna run west.
It's gonna run east.
It's running east?
Yeah, so the culvert is 200 feet, I mean, from Barwick, it's 200 feet west is where the culvert is.
Okay.
So, what I would do just based on, and feel free to take a trip out there.
I was down there the other
The
day.
north side of that culvert is a mess.
Yes.
That's where all the storm flows and everything are. But the south side is where it's kicked down, it's a little deeper of a channel, and it would be a lot easier to get a good footing in. You can tie the bridge to the actual culvert with, you know, as you're constructing the bridge, you can tie it to the culvert so there's no gaps or anything like that, and you're solidifying that bridge with infrastructure that's already there. So, I mean, Justin had the same opinion. It would be much better to take that 200 feet to the south side, you're only crossing one driveway, and then you're connecting to the actual sidewalk that's there. So you're gonna have to cross anyway somewhere. You might as well cross where it's easy to put the bridge, where it's gonna be more cost effective.
So as far as the plat goes, is he gonna need to change the plat? I mean, we're looking at finalizing the plat, we can't finalize it if this needs to be added.
It would be very easy on the plat for the engineer to go in and say, you guys did a 60-40, you know, he's doing, you know, 600 feet on on the, from his west boundary, 600 feet.
True, but from a
east.
procedural standpoint, can we approve that which is not already on the plat?
From a procedural standpoint, you could approve with the condition, if I'm correct.
Well, I think, at least according to your code, that you should have that all in place before you approve it, because it says it's supposed to go on the plat, noted on the plat before it's recorded of what the agreement, post-recording agreement is.
So they would have to update their Mylars and everything like that to show their section omitting our section.
My concern is if you approve it tonight, they don't have to do anything. I mean, they wouldn't have to do anything. It's not a concern.
And then we're back
Get their
to,
grace if they wanted
and then we're
to.
back to approving things that are not on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
which I don't think any of us have an appetite
Send this back to planning and zoning, get it all worked out, let's get a hard number, figure out what we have to do, see if we have it in the budget, we amend our budget, we pass the whole thing in one installment.
I'm assuming from your perspective, that make you sleep better at night? If we
Yeah.
had it all squared away first and then.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, there's no incentive on the developer if you approve it to do anything after the fact.
So to give the developer the comfort level that we know what we specifically want, can we have a motion that declares what we want, even though it's not necessarily approving the plat?
So you could motion it back to planning commission with conditions.
Yeah, I think that's what I'd do, just make a motion, send it back, and with these conditions that they find out the total cost of bridge and sidewalk, and then, or an estimate of cost, and then you guys can divide up
If it's,
how you're gonna divide it up.
if it's not an issue of cost, it's an issue of distance, we wouldn't need to get those estimates.
True, I mean, yeah, but
I mean, so
if you knew it's 800 feet and you're gonna take 400, the problem is the bridge.
my understanding, I'm, again, just trying to streamline here. My understanding is they've got 2 lots that they're ready to close on for development, once we've got the plat. So
We're in the big rush to pass this, and this has been on the table since 2008. I don't see the rush.
I think you could,
We can breathe for 2 weeks.
I mean, I think you could send it back with the condition that the plat gets amended to whatever the wishes are of the council. And at which point, the developer could post that performance bond or however it's worded and get the plat approved next meeting. But you'd have a surety bond guaranteeing their portion of the work, whatever that portion is that you guys are gonna agree on.
there you go.
Yes, as soon as the plat is, he has the performance bond and the plat's approved, they can pull building permits and start,
Right.
you know.
And then if he doesn't do it, you can execute against the bond and finish the project.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that easy, but yeah.
That's why we have you, Nate.
That's right, that's why you're here.
But I think you're gonna need a specific, at least some sort of specifics for what needs to be amended. So you're not here next time doing the same thing.
Yes, please.
Very much.
Make a motion that we send it back to planning and zoning, that the portion of the sidewalk that we're expecting the developer to do, which I believe that, we motion that it goes back to.
So planning and zoning is advisory.
Okay.
So I'm not sure
So what's gonna happen at a referral back to planning and zoning is they're gonna look at your conditions. They're gonna address, okay, has he changed the plat to show 600 feet west? And any other conditions you guys put on there. If you want costs, whatever, that's gonna be on their checklist. And that's what their approval is gonna be on. They're not gonna re-review anything or anything. They're reviewing what you're recommending back to them. It's not gonna be a whole review of the subdivision all over again. They're gonna look at the points that you've stated to review.
And to get new drawings, I mean, realistically, we're not talking about being able to put this in front of P and Z next week. Is that fair?
That's up to the developer. I don't, I mean, that's turnaround of an engineer and making up some Mylars. So, we do have, we do have deadlines for our agendas and stuff like that. We tentatively already told the planning commission that we weren't having a Monday meeting, but,
Not a Monday meeting, Tuesday.
yeah, but if, it's really up, if he can turn it around in, 2 days, then we can,
Wasn't the sidewalk already on the original plot?
so,
So it would just be a matter of taking.
yeah, I don't know if he'd be able to make the next meeting,
Yeah, I question that.
so.
However, it will communicate to him what our desires are and that we're not looking for an entire revamp or start all over again. It will communicate to him, these are the issues that we want. And as long as he fulfills his obligation, we'll fulfill ours.
No, absolutely. I mean, fix-wise, it should be relatively easier to update that.
So you can, you're comfortable with what the board wants at this point? Or do we need Nate, should we put a motion in play?
To get back to planning commission, you probably have to motion it back to planning commission.
Yeah, and I would outline, are you talking 600? I think that you guys need to agree on that footage number. Is that the
I
right
think it's
word?
gonna depend on cost. I mean,
So, like I said, you, as the board of aldermen, dictate the terms. The planning commission has no right to say, okay, the developer is going to go 600 feet and the city's going to go 300. You need to dictate footages so they can say, okay, checkbox approved. That's what their job is. Your job is to make those recommendations back to them.
So did we decide 600 feet for him and for, or
300.
300 for
Well,
us?
600 feet from the west boundary to the east,
To the east.
and the city is
We
responsible
take
for
the
the
rest and the bridge, which would
Right.
fall in this.
or however we want to do it.
Right.
And if he does a surety, the way your code works is that we're supposed to include whatever plans, construction plans they have, and whoever approves those has to approve them, and then it says the city attorney and city administrator sign off on the language to be put on the final plat when it's recorded.
Correct.
So,
And I think it's reviewed by the clerk also.
yeah. That seems like a fairly easy part.
Yeah.
I printed it. I thought that might come up. So, that shouldn't be too hard to get done, that portion of it. If the agreement's gonna be whatever you guys decide, that's gonna be
That's going to be the kicker, so.
That's why we're here.
Okay, I'll make a motion to remand this back to P and Z with the stipulation that the developer will complete the 600 feet of sidewalk,
No, do a surety bond for.
or we're doing the surety bond.
well, I think it's up to them.
You leave that up to the developer. You can
Okay.
State your terms.
Either
you can do
complete or. do a
Either
surety.
complete or put up the money, correct. All right. So 600 feet of pavement, I'm sorry, sidewalk, running from west to east,
Starting at the west boundary.
starting at the west boundary, and the city will install and bear the cost of installing and creating the bridge connecting to that piece of sidewalk. That's my motion.
And go ahead, but that portion doesn't need to be included on the plat of
Yeah.
what the city's gonna do.
That's correct.
So just whatever they're required to do, and then you guys can figure out how you're gonna do your portion at any time.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just make sure I have 600 feet of sidewalk from the west to the east, and then we'll figure out budgeting and timetable.
That good?
Yeah, so you're asking them to amend the plat to just the 600 feet.
Correct. It will show 600 feet of sidewalk from the west to the east.
I still want to see it cancel check. Just saying,
I don't think it's gonna appear.
because it possibly didn't happen. I don't know, who knows?
Well, that's another issue. Let's deal with this one.
Okay, so we have a first and a
No,
second.
did you second it, Casey? Okay.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right, Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Hilliard,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
No.
Yes.
Good. Permit can be a little messy. Thank you, everybody. All right, item number 8, appoint members to the Board of Adjustments. We have 2 applications in for a Jeremy Hill and a Ray Cook. I don't know if you want to do these individually. They've been in your packet. I don't know if you've had a chance to review them. I have talked to both of these gentlemen. They are excited about the opportunity to serve. I know Mr. Hill had originally applied for alderman in November when we were filling a slot. So he's interested in getting involved.
And Mayor, procedurally, did we need to, in the motion, state their term?
Yes, and that
Were
is.
these both 4 years?
We
Or was there a
have,
4 and a 5?
I think we did 4 last time.
we
Yeah,
did 4 last time,
yeah.
so there is,
No. We need to also review them for, in their resignation, just to,
So they resigned on the one,
yeah.
which one's that? Is that for one of these are your
I
points?
think it was for 4 years, actually, that we did 2 weeks ago.
Because they can only serve on one board, is that the?
The concern was if you're P and Z or
Conflict of interest.
or variance.
Oh, okay.
Board of
Yeah, yeah,
Adjustments
yeah,
may
yeah.
override.
So they resigned from the one? Yeah, I mean, I think you can just,
Just let that go.
yeah,
So we have
they're
a,
not
we
there
have a
anymore.
1 year and a 2 year.
we have a 1 year and a 2 year. And I'm sure they don't care. We could do Ray Cook for 1 and Jeremy Hill for 2.
Perfect.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion to appoint to the Board of Adjustments Ray Cook for a term of 1 year and Jeremy Hill for a term of 2 years.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Hilliard,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
and Alderman Swatash.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Moving right along, item number 9, police station via shift differential in pay structure. James,
Okay,
good to see you. What do you got for us?
thank you. So we've got a PowerPoint, should be in front of your face here in just 1 minute.
Working on it.
Working on it.
Yeah.
Apologies in advance.
I'm happy we're finally using it.
You can turn on your monitor.
So what had slideshow in from beginning? Up on the, there we go. Okay, so the concern was, what's going on with the turnover? Why are we, you're losing so many officers so much of the time? And so I go back to January 2024. And on the top tier, you've got the old timers that have been here a long time. But on the bottom tier, we were really in a position of pride because we had Corporal Cole 4 years, Browett 3 years, Steen 5 years. Steen is a rocket scientist, graduated #1 at the academies. In fact, when I cropped this picture to fit in this, in this program, he was hamming it up with a little police girl on Halloween, so he's just super good with the public. Colette has been with us for 4 years, recently profiled in the Springfield Daily, something, I don't know what that is. Smith has been here 2 years, and then you got your newbies, Officer Cole, and you remember, Mr. Mayor, Danielle Kale, you were cropped out of that photo. But so we were in a pretty good position. Then something happened. Most of our officers work second jobs. Corporal Deckard is no exception. So she's, did she live in Fairplay? Pleasant Hill. Pleasant Hill. So she lives in Pleasant Hill. And so she had a little side job where she was working, cooking in a fast food place or something like that, actually more of a convenience store, cooking. And every so often she'd see this older gentleman come in and he'd get a Coke, and he was recently retired from parole and probation, having served for 25, 30 years, and newly appointed as the Fairgrove police chief. And he was looking to establish a crew. So he got to where he felt like he knew Corporal Deckard. And he offered her $5 an hour more than we are presently paying her. And so what happened was we lost her for $27 an hour. Now, she also got a take-home car, and she also got promoted to sergeant, and she's their second command. They got a good egg there. Then Officer Browett down below, great guy. He won the Outstanding Officer of the Year in an awards ceremony recently. Honorable man, he was a farmer, born in a family of farmers. And he lived, could you help me remember where he drove, yeah, he drove, over an hour to get to work every day. And one of his buddies at the academy he went to landed a job at Marshfield. And so he called Nick Browett up and he said, hey, Nick, if you come down here to Marshfield, you're going to be making $25 an hour, $5 an hour more than he was making even as a 2-year officer at Willard. Oh, and you'll get a take-home car and, a promise of great things in the future. So that's 2, we lost 2, and that's how we lost him. And then Officer Cody, he just, sometimes you come into the profession, you're starry-eyed, and you're just believing it's going to be this and it's that, and it's like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was. And so he dropped out to part-time. So I'm down 3 full-time officers, and that's a significant hit to the coverage of the city. And so what can we do to shore up the gap? That's the question. In every instance, except the one, it was a problem of pay. So Willard has been paying $19.36 since September 2021, and we've never followed the flow upward. We've talked about it. We've just never done it. What we're up against is almost all of the competing agencies in our region are offering at least $23 an hour, some more. And more of those agencies are offering take-home cars. Missouri State Highway Patrol. And I was shocked to hear them say that they were going to refer me to Todd Deal, because I bought cars from Todd Deal back in the 90s when Willard couldn't afford brand new police cars. So I went up there and Todd would let me pilfer through the files and find the cars that were assigned to sergeants and lieutenants and above. You know, those are the ones I wanted because they were not as hard on them as the new guys. So I talked to Todd Deal, and this is what he said. They are currently selling 2020 SUVs that have 65,000 miles on them for $28,000. Those are V6s, all-wheel drives. And they're also selling Dodge Chargers with 55,000 miles on them for $24,000. Those are V6s, all-wheel drives. They do offer V8s, but we prefer the V6s. So additionally, they will add the lights and sirens to the package to where all you've got to do is add the cage and the console and maybe a radio, a police radio, because we need to buy new radios because these would be new cars if we opted to do that. So just throwing out some information. So some of the problems that we're having with our staff is that when they're seeing others go for more money, it begins to make them wonder what it would be like. Recently, at our own station, we have a new police chief in town, not this town, but in the airport police town. And he has always, I've always allowed the airport police to use our shooting range. They come to the range, they sign our paper and they get the flag. And he had the audacity to recruit or try and recruit one of our officers. You ought to come over here, he said. So this is what's going on. It's active recruiting, and not only that, but then some of the officers are looking for opportunities themselves. It's a problem. And the other problem is that the caseload remains the same at the police department, but fewer officers are bearing the burden of that load, and that affects morale. Current staffing infringes on officers' ability to receive the benefits of, like, hey, my son's playing soccer this weekend, could I take Friday off? And it's like, man, you're the only one on the shift. We always say yes if we can make the adjustment, just so you know, that's our philosophy. Morale suffers when standard expectations are diminished. And the example I give is, I never thought that I would be working this shift alone. I never thought that would be the case. And nobody wants to work a graveyard shift alone. It can be scary out there. And I know Willard is typically considered one of the safest cities in Missouri, but we are pretty darn close to one of the most dangerous cities in Missouri. And so what can we do? What can we do? This is a proposal. I propose that we change our starting salary from $19.37 to $23 for our new hires and make those corresponding increases among the tenured officers that we currently have. I propose that we implement a take-home car policy or program for people that are living within 20-mile radius of headquarters. And then, as a added benefit, the hardest shift for us to fill is the third shift. I propose shift differential that would give 50 cents more an hour to the second shifter and $1.50 more for the third shifter. And so you say, what is this going to cost? It's wonderful to make these proposals, but how close can we come to doing this within the boundaries of our budget? I shouldn't neglect to mention tuition reimbursement. Currently, the city of Willard pays for the officers' mandated training, but tuition reimbursement has not really been on the table. But I know some of the people in this room have benefited from tuition reimbursement to the tune of 2 degrees. Well, I'm going to take advantage of it while I'm employed here. And, it's like, that's a big benny. So what about the cost? To change our starting salary from 1936 to 23, oh, I didn't get that figure up there, but I know what it is. To change it from 19 to 23 would cost, across the board, would cost $97,000. $97,000. The take-home car implementation, department-wide, would be an additional $111,600.
That would be for 11 officers?
Yes, that would be for 11 officers.
So the 97,000, that's for all of the officers?
For all the officers.
And the 111,000, that's
For,
to make sure that everybody has a take-home car?
yes, ma'am. Oh, but the truth be known, there be some in this room who don't want to take home car. And so really, that number, right? I mean, Sergeant Purdy, you want to take home car?
Not necessarily.
Okay, he might take one, but it sounded, it's pretty solid like he didn't want to. I think I've got 2 officers that aren't interested in take-home cars just because they don't want their neighbors knowing that they're lawmen. He lives in the bad part of town. I'm just kidding.
Have you thought about shrinking the radius on your mileage? 20 miles seems awfully
Right.
broad.
So
Is there a reason that you chose?
the reason I chose that is because, that's what I'm seeing in other areas. So that's what I suggest. The shift differential, now the shift differential is gonna cost the city, I think we disagree on this number. I thought I'd changed it. I said and thought it was $10,000 over the course of a year with current staffing at 11. You come up with 10,000, is that right?
I can't remember.
I'm a little bit off, but not much.
I think it was about 10.
The real question is, are we in a state of emergency? We weren't in January, but presently, we've lost 3 full-time officers. And if we lose one more, we could be in straits that I would consider dire. And so I'm asking for you guys to consider doing something to help. Now, I am aware that a law enforcement sales tax has been the topic of discussion for a year and some change. But the political climate has not been such that it made sense to pursue it then. But I think it's changed. It's changing. And so I called Shane Scholler just this afternoon. And I said, Shane, would it even be possible to get a law enforcement sales tax on the ballot in November? Yes. Yes, he said, all you have to do is get your ballot language certified by August 27th, but don't put it off till the last day because if there's a problem, you know. So I see a law enforcement sales tax being a very real remedy to the present problem. But I also believe that that if it's within our power to do something now to help, then we should. And now, I realize that the lion's share of the funding to fund these things would come from sales tax. But is there something we could do at this present time? And so, that's my presentation.
Chief, what kind of sales tax would it take to, I mean, we're talking almost $250,000 annual increase in budget. What kind of sales tax would it take to generate that?
Well, a half cent, I'm told, is going to generate in Willard $333,000. Is that right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. A half cent. I asked Shane, typically, is it a half cent? Is it 3/4 cent? Is it full on penny? He said typically it's a half cent. So, yes, sir. I saw that hand.
No, I was just scratching.
Oh, please.
Not guilty.
Have you given any thought, or has it ever been done where instead of a take-home car, a car allowance would be offered? Because for the officers who a take-home car does not offer anything for, then that's not an incentive, and we still run the risk of not giving them enough incentive to stay. Is a take-home car, or is a car allowance, you know, of $400 a month or $500 a month to help them?
That's not as beneficial when it comes to law enforcement.
Well, let me give you a good analogy for that. Well, it's not really an analogy, a comparison, because where I retired from in Springfield, we had a uniform allowance. I think we got, we started $1,200 or $1,500 a year. I'll bet you only 20% of the cops use that money on their allowances, on the uniform allowance. So they pilfer it away on other things. So the only way I think that would work is if we directed it to a fleet. I mean, if you had a fleet manager, well, we're not gonna have a fleet manager here, but a fleet or something, where that money went right to the vehicle itself, yes, then it might work. Maybe I'm just saying, if you put it in the cops' pockets to put toward the car, only a small percentage of it will use it for a car.
Do we care?
I do.
It's an incentive.
True, but we can give them other incentives. I mean, if we're gonna give them incentives and we're gonna give clothing allowance and uniform allowances, in my opinion, that's what it should be used for.
I'll defer to your experience on that.
I mean, the take-home car study after study shows that the cars last a lot longer because cops take better care of things that they take home, and you don't have 4 people driving them every 3 shifts or 3.5 shifts and destroying them and beating on them and leaving trash in them. I mean, that's a good idea. But I just had a couple things of input as far as the immediacy, things that you could do right now.
Right.
And maybe you are doing some of them, I don't know. And I'm only speaking from experience of some of the things that Springfield did with us. We got access to all the city us and our families got access to all the city recreational facilities, except the golf courses. They wouldn't give us the golf courses. But all the police officers and their families can either go to the gym for free, they all get free gym memberships, or go down here and work with TR Fitness, go meet with the owner down there and see if they'll give free memberships to the cops and their families or a diminished rate. I don't know if the apartments, I know there's not very many large apartment complexes here, but in Springfield, the apartment complex owners would let the police officers live in an apartment for free or next to free if they parked a patrol car out front and acted as security on occasion. I don't know, does anyone do that here in Willard?
It's been mentioned in the distant past, but I don't believe that any of our officers were interested in living in the apartments.
So, I mean, just things like that, those are things that, show the officers that, the city supports them, and it gives them some options as far as gyms, recreational facilities, just kind of extra perks.
I do know that TR does have a military.
They have a military law enforcement discount, but it'd be nice if they would,
Take care
if
of.
they could free memberships.
Chief, how many cars do we currently have?
6.
And is that 111,000, is that to cover 5 more cars, or would that?
That would be for new to us highway patrol vehicles. For example, the school police, they purchase their vehicles from the highway patrol.
So that would be 4 more cars. Now, we do have fleet management, kind of. 4 years ago, we began a program where we buy our cars new and use them, and then the company that we work with, I believe it's Enterprise, that we kind of lease through, and then they resell them. And while this started 4 years ago, we couldn't get cars 4 years ago. So it's only the last couple of years we've really begun to work this program. Would it be better to expand through this program rather than buying used cars? Because I know the reason we did it is because the maintenance costs on used cars is substantially higher. And we're paying a higher rate to buy a used car because there's not a state set price than when we buy a new car. And that's how we actually make some money back, is when we sell that car, that 3-year-old car, at market value that we did not buy at market value.
That sounds like it would be worthy of looking into.
That's what I would like to see on that. I don't disagree that something more immediate needs to be done, because staff is currently covering 2.5 people down or 3 people down. It's just,
That's not bad.
That's what,
it's just gonna get worse, and we lose one more, and, pretty soon.
you already have with 27% of the force gone.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Chief, and maybe you already have this in place in the policy, but there will be officers that will take the night shift just for the extra $1.50. Will you have a mandatory rotation off of night shift? Meaning you will only let them work on nights for, say, a rotation of 1 year? Or will you let them stay there?
Indefinitely. Well, typically, the officers rotate every 3 months. And so, and we've been on that system for decades. So I feel like it would be unfair to allow an officer who's really into it now that I get an extra $1.50 to not allow another officer to have the same opportunity. So yes, we would continue to rotate unless there was no one that wanted to fill it type thing. We would be flexible in that area. Regarding the shift differential, if we have budgeted for a 12th officer this year, but I can't fill my 9th officer, my 10th, and my 11th officer, and so the likelihood of needing those funds for the 12th officer is very slim. I'd say it's a 0% chance. So what I propose that we do is that we take from that fund and implement the shift differential like, today, what I would like to see. And while I know that we can't go from 1937 to 23, I think we can, within the boundaries of our budget, I think we can go 5% across the board, and that would bring that would bump our starting salary up to 2019. So we would at least we'd be paying more than Ash Grove, and we'd be paying more than Stratford. and it would be some momentum. And I would be a voice speaking and a loudspeaker in the push to promote the law enforcement sales tax. That this is just the beginning, this is the sign that the city is doing what it can to shore up the gap. And, but we're pressing toward that mark of obtaining the sales tax.
Carolyn and I had kind of on a preliminary worked with some step and grade work on the grid, and 5% seemed doable for the offices. And then that was kind of adjusting from the low range entry level pay, and then those folks that are already in, it kind of leveled out that everybody got 5%. It was approximately 28,000 before salary and fringe.
So,
which could also be consumed with the 12th position.
right, if a wage increase was initiated immediately or shortly thereafter, I mean, we've got an officer number 12 budgeted for the entire year, and we'd only be talking 7 months for these increases, so to the end of the year.
Right.
So really, we're not looking at 100,000, 96,000, and 9,000, leaving cars out of it. We're talking more like 56,000 and 5,500, which would, I'm not sure how much we got budgeted for the officer number 12, but I mean, that alleviates a big part of that cost. You're talking a little over $60,000. Then the question is, do we have the money somewhere to come up with the
Salary for that
difference?
position before fringe would be approximately 55,500. So you could cover your shift differential plus the 5% within a range of comfort. I mean, to settle on the exact number, we need to add salary and fringe in there to get a rough idea, but almost 100% certain it's not going to be in excess of 55.
Okay.
So I have a question for Carolyn. When we redid the salary schedule and the whole, in budget, did we not do anything for law?
Yeah, I believe we did.
I was wondering that same thing.
I think we went to the 19, whatever.
Well, she was saying that we haven't raised that in how many years?
Well, we bumped from 1670 to 1937 in September of 2021.
Wow, was it that long ago?
Yeah. And, but at that time, we were at the top of the heap.
Right, and
We
now
didn't
we're
raise
back
the
to the bottom.
salaries.
Right.
We decided to go with loggers. Salaries didn't get raised.
Oh, that is
I think they got-
accurate.
We did the
Did they-
loggers, and I thought
Then
we
they got
did the
cost of
loggers,
living.
but we left the raises still as an option, depending on the budget.
I thought
Customary
you still
ones.
got the 2 to 3%
Right.
COLA.
Well, we got that.
Yes,
The regular COLA that everyone gets every year.
yes, they got the COLA
That was
and the
already in
loggers.
budget. But no, we did not increase the wages for.
So the loggers was the real raise
Increase.
for law enforcement.
For everybody,
Spoke about it.
for everybody, yeah.
Yeah, but
We
it was
brought the
more,
$23 up during that meeting. Stratford raised their rates to $23 an hour for their officers, and it was inevitable that we'd be sitting here today.
And this is an arms race that will continue ad nauseum. I mean, every agency is fighting this.
Well, that's why Shannon Shipley says this needs to be evaluated annually. And by the way, you may have seen her on an episode of Snapped recently, did you? She did such a good job, and you also saw Sergeant Steve Purdy. Both of those were the main players in solving the double homicide a couple of years ago.
Chief, I don't even know if this is feasible. I'm just thinking out loud. Have you ever considered a rotation of the officers through area task forces so they have something to look forward to? Give them, I mean, cops are like everybody else. They want new challenges. They want to go chase bigger, badder guys. You know, ATF has TFOs, DEA, TFOs, IRS. I mean, every alphabet agency in Springfield has TFOs.
Right.
And if you could work maybe with the RACs and the SACs and maybe, if they could look forward to a 6 months assignment to a task force, might be something they saw as a really good benefit or something they would enjoy.
It would, no question
But I don't know
about
if you
it.
can
but-
afford, you can't afford to lose them right now, is the problem. Maybe once you get up to staff, something that be thinking about, and I don't even know if the DEA is still doing sharing with law enforcement, or if everything goes to the education department now. But that used to be a great source of revenue for us because, whenever we see millions of dollars worth of whatever,
Right,
the city got their cut.
right.
But I don't know if everything goes to the education department now or not. I don't know, I was just trying to think internally what you could do to, spice things up with your people, to enjoy work, because we know that money is low on the list of motivation.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to go to the agency down the road and make a little more money, but if that agency's boring and ho-hum,
Right.
and your agency's fun, and you have TAC nights and different things that you can go out and do, people enjoy coming to work and they want to stay.
Yeah.
Shooting, I know some agencies use shooting as a benefit, because Lord knows ammo is expensive now, but I know of agencies like us, once again, in Springfield, like if you're on the red team or the blue team, the SWAT teams, we can go burn up as much ammo as we want. Those muzzle strokers love to shoot. And
Will our current payroll structure allow for a variable shift differential pay, or is that something we have to change as well?
I don't know how that would work. Carolyn?
I mean, I'd have to do some figuring, because we're just figuring it with the extra officer, not hiring that person. They're starting out at what, 39,000? So that's approximately plus whatever the tax amount would be, but that would be taken up somewhere else. So basically you got $39,000 to work with.
As far as adding it in, I suspect in the past, the way I've seen it handled is it's applied as a separate hourly rate. So you'll have your wage and salary,
And
whatever it is, and then down at the bottom, you'll see a shift diff that's
There-
applied for the hours that you work. I'm certain, I haven't seen the new system in play, but I'm certain it's going to be
That
something
makes
similar.
very good sense.
Yeah.
I think you're right about the timing and the tax, though, just because I don't know if the general population will have a stomach for it, but everybody has been hearing through the media for the last 3 years about the mass exodus from law enforcement, and we're no different, so it might be a good time to fly that flag.
And I'm up for it.
I'm all for it.
But yeah, in order for us to get the momentum, we all gotta be up for it.
Yes, because we're all gonna have to sell it.
Yeah. So,
And we were the number 9th safest city in the state of Missouri, correct?
say that again?
We were the number 9th safest city in the state of Missouri, correct?
Yeah.
I'll put that on the
I think
flag.
we'd like to stay that way.
Yeah, but
If
we're
not-
We would like
5 miles from one of the most dangerous cities.
dangerous places in the world.
So, anything else? Someone said, and I shouldn't probably mention this, but I want the history of the PAL program. Do you need the history of the PAL program? In 2008, the mayor and board had been hearing a rumble among the members of the community about starting a youth boxing program, and they thought it would be good to start one at the police station. I wasn't interested in that initially, but I did finally surrender to a one-year analysis, and the board approved it. And at the end of that year, we visited several boxing clubs, police athletic league boxing clubs. We landed mostly in Kansas City, and just we saw that we were positioned well to start a program like that, and so we did. And so, I mean, if you were at our 15th annual Willard Powell Spa Wars a couple of Saturdays ago, you'd have seen over 100 people in the house cheering on the competitors and just loving the fact that we invested 8 weeks of time into their training and offered them an opportunity to be a champion for a night, and for some of those kids, that may be their only night.
That's a big deal.
But yeah, so we're honored to be able to do things like that. and it's a blessing to be able to do it. So as I walk away, I get the impression that we'll be taking no action tonight.
No,
I don't know that.
Okay.
no. We're ready to do some things.
Well, I think Chief, Chief,
Yes, sir.
I said, what I take away is that, I think that we just are going to have to hear from Carolyn and Wes soon on, the plausibility from a budgetary standpoint. And then I'm certain, once we see some numbers, that we'd be open to having that discussion and making a decision. That's my read of the room.
I sense that there is great appetite for accommodating a wage increase and a shift differential and on the very near horizon.
Right.
We've just got to get the money lined up.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Any other discussion or comments? All right. Moving on, item number 10, ordinance adopting new amendments to the Willard Municipal Code City Clerk Section number 115.1, second read. So, at the last meeting, we talked about the changes we were looking at for the municipal code for the city clerk. There were no changes beyond what we did 2 weeks ago. Does anybody have any new questions about what we're doing here? Okay, if not, I would ask for a second read.
An ordinance approving a municipal code amendment to section 115.100 of the municipal code of the city of Willard pertaining to the duties of the city clerk.
I'll make a motion to approve as read.
Second that. Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Villiers? Yes. Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
And Alderman Swallow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Item 11, ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept a proposal and contract with Canon Financial Services to lease a new printer for the utility clerks. Now, this will be our second read. I assume nothing has changed regarding this.
Nothing has changed.
Are there any further questions or comments before we have our second read? Then I would ask for our second read.
Accepting the proposal by Lakeland Office Systems to provide a printer for city hall utility clerks and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary.
A second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Villiers?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
And Alderman Swallow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Item number 12, an ordinance adding an inflow and infiltration section to the municipal code. This would be a first read. Mr. Roosh, would you care to walk us through it?
Yes, so inflow and infiltration is basically the introduction of water either through a sump pump being forced into the sewer system or water infiltrating through a broken sewer into the system. In accordance to our contract with Springfield, they are our sewer servicing provider. We need to have an inflow and infiltration plan put together to try to limit that. Obviously, it increases our cost by having inflow and infiltration because we're servicing water instead of sewer. So we set this off before. It's been before you before it came back from legal. They were worried about the Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizure. They kind of wanted us to steer clear of that instead of directly contacting the customer and asking to see their sump pump and everything like that. We decided to go a different direction by the use of cameras and dyes and smoke testing and different things like that. We try to determine the presence of a connection. We might look at something different that in the future that allows for a little bit more proactive from the customer side, where the customer has a certified rate and a non-certified rate for sewer, where they're certifying, they schedule an appointment with Public Works comes out, certifies that they're not. So the customer would initiate it, we would not initiate it, but then they would get a better rate on the sewer. So, talking with Justin, he likes that idea better. They can schedule that. But I thought I'd bring that up to the board. But this is in compliance with Springfield. This establishes a program which allows us to mitigate infiltration without stomping on Fourth Amendment rights. So that's basically what it is, and because we're introducing a new code, it needs to be accepted and read by ordinance, so.
And as the city attorney had a chance to review and.
Well, the city attorney reviewed the first take, and it's been emailed out to Holly, I just haven't gotten an answer back. So it could.
But she looked at it originally.
Oh, absolutely. They sent back their feedback on the abomination it was before.
The king's heavy-handed men.
Oh, absolutely. They didn't want anything to do with Big Brother, so.
Okay.
Basically when it went away from, us asking them to search and possible fines if they didn't complete it, to alternate testing, and then a period of compliance. If it's not found that it's changed, then we just disconnect the water service. So I don't know if that's any better on their side, but
Sounds better.
it doesn't bring warm fuzzies anywhere. And like I told the board before, we're here to work with people. We're not here to slap people. We want to work with people as much as we can, but also it is a substantial problem. Like
You're gonna find not just sump pumps. I think we did in Carthage smoke testing maybe 5 years ago, a lot of downspouts. Like smoke was coming out of people's guttering.
Yeah.
And that's substantial inflow into, you think of an entire roof dumping water into your sanitation sewer.
Yeah. So what we're proposing today is some discussion, possibly a first read, knowing that we're going to come back and revisit this with possibly a certified, non-certified rate, where if they will set up an appointment and schedule with Public Works, they'll get a break on their sewer rate. So.
And this does bring us into compliance with Springfield's requirements.
Technically, it would bring us into compliance. Obviously, we'll sharpen our pencil on the next go round, but yeah, we want to get in compliance with our current wastewater contract.
Any further questions? Well, I'd ask for a first read.
Ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of.
Make a motion to approve as written. What's that?
It's got
About 2 sentences.
it's got some whereas's and therefores out there.
It does.
So.
And I emailed Holly, so we'll see what she's long before the next meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Villiers?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
and Alderman Swanton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Hammer, would you care to walk us through item number 13, the sanitary sewer project status report?
All right, on the 94 Force Main, Livermore is about 30% complete with the plan and profile design on the Force Main from 94 to City of Springfield. We're currently in the process of submitting our first reimbursement request to the United States Treasury under the congressional earmark. This includes the variable frequency drives, surveying related to the replacement of force main, engineering design consideration, materials investigation for the force main methods of construction. So things are moving forward. Meadows connection to the City of Springfield, Livermore, about 80% complete the design of the gravity main from the Meadows Lagoon to Airport Lift Station of Springfield. Oliver Martin is working on a couple of issues regarding the plan and profile for the gravity sewer at section of Farm Roads 103 and 106. That's kind of a creek drainage ditch nightmare through there, so we're trying to look at alternatives to minimize the cost. And they've been coordinating with the City of Springfield regarding a connection at the airport lift station with regards to standards, flow meter specifications, and the demarcation of line ownership. Where do we quit? Where do they start? So that's being worked on and negotiated. That's where we stand right now.
Any questions? Thank you very much, sir. New business, Farm Road 94 expansion. Mr. Roosh.
So, I mean, there are rare occasions in our job where we get some really good news. This is one of those times. So, the quarry came to us last week with an issue that happened on Farm Road 94. Anybody who's been down that road knows that that road leads to quarry. It's pretty narrow. It's always clogged up with trucks and different things like that. So, the quarry came to us and asked if we would be up to allowing them to upgrade a public road. What they're proposing is, if you look at the map in front of you guys, they're proposing to upgrade that green section all the way to the curb and add an additional 6 feet of asphalt. So what they're going to come in and they're going to mill the existing road. They're going to establish a base that exceeds our current standards. Base of the road, and then they're going to come back and relay asphalt over the top of everything. So it'll look like a brand new road. It's not going to be a patch job or anything like that. It's going to exceed our expectations, and better yet, they're doing it on their dime. So what we propose is that they write a non-liability contract to be reviewed by legal. They're not going to hold the city liable for any liability, accidents, or increased costs on the project. They're going to assume all liability on that. I just wanted to bring this to your attention that this has been brought before us. It doesn't need a vote because the city's not doing anything. We'll be supplying some inspections on the infrastructure and different things like that, but we're not going to expend any other monies regarding. We'll have legal take a look at the contract and make sure it's in our favor before allowing the project to move forward.
But your department's responsibility to make sure the road is built to the whatever standard.
Sadly, no, I would refer to Public Works.
Oh, Public Works will do that.
Yeah, I know my limitations.
Okay.
I build up, not down.
Right on, okay. But Public Works, you coordinated with.
Sure, well, Trevor's on top of things and we'll coordinate inspections. It should be a very, very quick, smooth project. They're anxious to go, and
there's no reason not to do this, is there?
so, like I said, paydays are rare, but sometimes they happen. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or concerns? Thank you, Mike. I don't see any unfinished business on the items on the agenda. So I would ask for recess in the open session pursuant to RSMO section 610.021 legal.
I have a question before we recess.
Yeah.
Is that where we would ask about finding out on the cost of the election? Did we ever find out the cost of?
We did find out the cost of the election, and it was,
Karen gave it to us, I believe.
yeah, and the reduction was the amount that the county had, was a final figure from the county. So it was 23,000
Change.
$500 or something.
And I did plan to have a chat with, I think it was Maggie. She and I didn't quite connect before this meeting, but she said she's willing to give me kind of a more detailed breakdown, which she did confirm just this week.
Madison?
Madison, that's it.
But the numbers
The numbers are correct.
solid.
Yep.
So,
All right,
thank you
that's
for.
all. I just wanted to double check on that.
No, good on you.
Then I would make a motion that we recess the open session and move into closed session pursuant to RSMO section 6.10.021, subsection 1 legal.
So can we close at the same time we open or recess, or can we open at the same time we recess, or is that a second motion? Because I think she just did both.
I think it's all one. I've always done it as one. We move to go.
Okay.
Move to go into executive session or after recess.
I like it.
You just,
So.
because you have to go back
That'll
and
just be
open
the
it before
one
you.
agenda item? Okay, that'll then just be.
Well, I don't know if it can be one. I just remember that Holly had said
Said we
it
can do
could
both
be
in
one motion.
Okay, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Do we have to go back to the wrestling room, or are we staying here?
So, we can step out unless there are anybody that wants to stay.
Hey, Carolyn? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Hilliard.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderman Slaughter.
Yeah.
Thank you.